In the most luxurious mansion in the neighborhood, the lights shone brightly as guests arrived in imported cars. It was the grand birthday party of the daughter of the richest businessman in town. While champagne was being served and laughter echoed through the hall, at the service entrance walked in Maria the housemaid, with her 12-year-old daughter Anna. Anna, shy and sweet-eyed, wore her only simple dress, already worn with time. Her mother had carefully tied her hair back, but nothing could compare to the glow of those wealthy girls in their expensive gowns. "Sweetheart, stay quietly in a corner. Tonight, Mommy has to work twice as hard. Don't draw attention, all right?" Maria pleaded, her voice filled with worry. Anna nodded silently, but it didn't take long for the stares to begin. Between muffled laughter and poisonous whispers, some guests were already murmuring, "Who let that girl in here? Look at her. Must be the maid's daughter. So out of place." The night had only just begun, and Anna was about to face the humiliation that would mark her life forever. Before we continue, I'd love to know where you're watching from today. And if you're enjoying these stories, make sure you're subscribed to the channel. The mansion glowed like a palace that night. Crystal chandeliers illuminated every corner of the ballroom, their light bouncing off golden decorations that wrapped around the staircase like streams of sunlight. Outside, imported cars lined the driveway, and one by one, wealthy families stepped out, dressed in gowns and tuxedos that seemed to belong to another world. The air was filled with music from the live orchestra, and laughter rose above it all, the kind of laughter that carries the weight of superiority. While the guests entered through the grand front doors, Maria came quietly through the service entrance, wearing her faded uniform and holding tightly to the hand of her daughter, Anna. The girl was only 12, her eyes wide with innocence and curiosity. She wore her only dress, a simple blue one that had been mended many times, and shoes that no longer quite fit her feet. Yet Maria had tied her hair neatly, doing everything she could to make her daughter look presentable. "Stay close to me, sweetheart," Maria whispered as they entered the kitchen where other servants rushed around with trays and silverware. "This is not our place. Let me do my work, and we'll leave as soon as I'm finished." Anna nodded. She wanted to obey, but her eyes kept drifting toward the sound of music and laughter spilling in from the ballroom. She had never seen such light, such sparkle. She could almost feel the rhythm of the violins vibrating in her chest. Maria placed her hand firmly on her daughter's shoulder. "Promise me, Anna, don't wander too far." The girl whispered back, "I promise, Mama," though her curiosity was already stirring in her heart. From the kitchen doorway, Anna caught her first glimpse of the ballroom. It looked like something out of a dream. Girls her age spun across the polished marble floor, their dresses glittering with sequins, their hair perfectly styled, their shoes shining like jewels under the chandeliers. She lowered her gaze to her own simple dress and worn shoes, feeling the difference, but still she could not stop watching. She took one timid step closer to the doorway, then another, until her small figure was visible in the light of the hall. It didn't take long before a group of wealthy teenagers noticed her. They paused, exchanging knowing smirks. One boy leaned toward his friend and whispered, just loud enough to be heard, "Who is that?" A girl giggled, covering her mouth with her hand. "Probably the maid's kid. Just look at her clothes." Another boy shook his head with mock pity. "She doesn't belong here." The words hit Anna like stones. She felt her face burn and instinctively lowered her head, clutching the hem of her dress, but she was already exposed. The laughter, though muffled, grew sharper in her ears, louder than the orchestra. Then the music shifted, and the room suddenly grew still. All eyes turned to the grand staircase where Beatrice, the birthday girl, appeared. She was radiant in a gown that shimmered like liquid gold, the fabric catching every glimmer of light. Diamonds sparkled from her ears, and her confident smile carried the arrogance of someone who believed the world revolved around her. Slowly, she descended the stairs, savoring the admiration that followed her. Halfway down, her gaze fell upon Anna. She stopped, her expression hardening. With a voice as cold as the marble floor, she asked, "And who invited you?" The words cut through the silence, making Anna's stomach twist. The girl swallowed hard and managed to whisper, I came with my mother. She's working tonight. Beatrice tilted her head and let out a laugh, sharp and cruel. Oh, so the maid's little girl thinks she's a guest at my party? The crowd around her erupted with laughter. The echo filled every corner of the ballroom. Look at her shoes, one of Beatrice's friends shouted, pointing at Anna. I think that dress came from a thrift store, another added, mockery dripping from her tone. The laughter grew, crueler and crueler, as some guests covered their smirks with champagne glasses, while others shook their heads in disdain. A woman whispered to her husband, This is why the staff should never bring their families out of the kitchen. Another man muttered, It ruins the atmosphere. Anna's throat tightened as tears filled her eyes. She wanted to run, to hide, but her feet felt nailed to the floor. She pressed her hands together, desperately trying not to cry in front of them. From the kitchen, Maria caught sight of her daughter surrounded, her heart pounding like a drum in her chest. She wanted to drop the tray she was holding and rush to protect her child. But she couldn't. She was invisible to these people, just another servant. If she made a scene, she could lose her job, and her daughter would suffer even more. So Maria closed her eyes for a moment, whispering silently, God, please protect my little girl. Don't let them crush her spirit. Give her strength. Anna's eyes wandered through her tears, and for a brief second, landed on the stage set up in the center of the hall. It was prepared for performances later that night, with lights waiting to shine and instruments lined up in place. Something inside her stirred, a faint spark she didn't yet understand. But it quickly faded under the weight of humiliation, and she lowered her head again, stepping back toward the shadows. The orchestra resumed. Laughter filled the hall once more, and the party sparkled brighter than ever. Yet for Anna, the night had already become something else entirely. It was no longer a party. It was a battlefield of dignity. One she had not chosen, but one she was already being forced to fight. The ballroom had returned to its rhythm after the cruel laughter at Anna's expense. The orchestra played again, waiters carried trays of crystal glasses, and the guests pretended to forget the little scene that had just unfolded. But Anna couldn't forget. The words still echoed in her ears, sharp and heavy, stabbing deeper than the mocking eyes that followed her. She retreated to the edge of the hall, standing close to a tall pillar, hoping to disappear into the shadows. Yet even there she could still feel the weight of the stairs. The rich children glanced at her from across the room, whispering and giggling. It was as if every move she made, every breath she took, became another excuse for ridicule. Maria, from the kitchen doorway, noticed her daughter's isolation. Her heart ached, but she couldn't leave her duties. Every tray she carried, every glass she refilled, felt heavier than the last. She prayed with every step, Lord, don't let them break my little girl. Cover her with your hand. Meanwhile, Beatrice, the birthday girl, walked proudly among her guests, her golden gown shimmering under the chandeliers. She loved being admired, envied, praised. But Anna's presence was like a thorn in her perfect night. She couldn't bear the idea of someone so ordinary standing in the same hall as her, under the same lights. She stopped near her group of friends, her voice loud enough for Anna to hear. Can you believe it? My father throws the most elegant party of the year, and somehow, the maid's daughter slips in. The friends laughed obediently. One of the boys added, She looks like she wandered in from the street. Doesn't she know her place? Another girl, fixing her diamond bracelet, smirked. It's embarrassing. People like that should stay behind the kitchen doors. Anna closed her eyes for a moment, wishing she could shut out the words. But the whispers seemed to grow louder, following her like shadows. She felt her chest tighten, her breathing shallow. She wanted to run to her mother, to hide in her embrace. But she knew Maria was busy, and she didn't want to cause her more trouble. A group of children began to play near the dance floor, and one of them, a girl no older than Anna, pointed at her and said, Why is she standing there? Doesn't she know this is not her place? Her words were innocent but cruel, repeating what she had heard from the adults around her. Even the younger ones had learned to look down on Anna. The orchestra changed to a faster melody, and couples began to dance. The laughter of the wealthy echoed as their skirts twirled and their shoes tapped elegantly on the marble. Anna's eyes filled with tears, but she didn't cry. She couldn't. Instead, she pressed herself tighter against the pillar, her hands clenched, her spirit trembling but not yet broken. And then Beatrice approached again. She walked gracefully but with purpose, her heels clicking on the floor like a declaration of power. She stopped right in front of Anna, lifting her chin slightly, forcing the girl to meet her gaze. "Tell me," Beatrice said with a smirk, "do you think you belong here? Do you think you can stand among us?" Anna shook her head quickly. "No, I didn't mean to," she whispered. Beatrice leaned closer, her voice sharp but soft enough that only Anna and her friends could hear. "Remember this, people like you don't shine. Not here, not anywhere." The words struck deeper than all the laughter combined. Anna lowered her eyes again, her heart breaking silently. From across the room, Maria saw the scene unfold. She wanted to scream, to rush to her daughter, but instead, she whispered once more, with tears welling in her eyes, "God, please, protect her. Don't let their contempt destroy her soul." The music soared, the party carried on, but for Anna, the world had grown darker. The contempt around her was suffocating, and yet, in the deepest part of her heart, a spark remained. She didn't yet know it, but the very stage where she had been shamed would soon become the place of her triumph. The music grew louder, and the party swirled in colors and light. Couples danced gracefully, the skirts of golden gowns brushing against polished shoes, while the chandeliers reflected 1,000 sparks across the ballroom. To the wealthy guests, it was an evening of glamour. But for Anna, it was an evening of shadows, each minute heavier than the last. She stood near the edge of the hall wishing she could vanish, but the cruel glances kept finding her. Every time she moved, whispers followed. Every laugh, every smirk felt like a dagger piercing deeper into her fragile heart. Maria passed quickly with a tray of glasses, her eyes flicking toward her daughter, pleading silently. "Stay strong, my love. Just a little longer." But Anna's strength was already waning. Then came the moment that would carve itself into her memory forever. One of Beatrice's friends, a tall boy with slicked hair and a suit too fine for his age, stepped onto the center of the dance floor and clapped his hands loudly. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announced, his voice carrying across the hall, "we have a very special guest tonight, the maid's daughter." The crowd chuckled, heads turned toward Anna. She froze, her cheeks burning hot. Beatrice smirked, stepping forward to seize the moment. "Oh yes," she said loudly, her voice echoing with arrogance. "Why don't we let her show us what she can do? Perhaps she'll entertain us since she's already here." The cruel suggestion spread like fire. Guests laughed, some clapping mockingly. "Yes, let her try," shouted a man, half drunk, enjoying the cruelty like a spectacle. Anna shook her head, stepping back, her hands trembling. "No, please," she whispered. But Beatrice's friends surrounded her, forming a wall that blocked her path. "Don't be shy," one girl sneered. "Come on, show us. Can you dance? Can you sing? Or maybe you only know how to scrub floors like your mother." The laughter exploded. The orchestra, confused, stopped playing for a moment. The silence that followed was even more humiliating. All eyes locked on Anna, waiting, judging, enjoying her suffering. Anna's heart pounded so hard it felt like it would burst. She wanted to disappear, to run, to hide in her mother's arms. But her legs refused to move. Tears filled her eyes, blurring the cruel faces in front of her. Maria, watching from the corner of the room, felt her soul break. She dropped the tray she was holding, the glasses shattering on the floor. She didn't care. She stepped forward, desperate to shield her daughter. But before she could reach her, one of the party organizers stopped her with a firm hand. "Stay in your place, woman," he hissed. "Don't ruin the party." Maria's knees shook. Her lips trembled as she whispered a prayer only God could hear. Lord, please give her courage. Don't let their cruelty be the last word tonight. The children began chanting cruelly, clapping in rhythm. Dance, dance, dance. Their voices rose, filling the hall, echoing against the golden walls. Even some adults joined in, laughing like it was all a game. Anna stood frozen, the center of attention, tears sliding down her cheeks. In that moment, she felt smaller than she had ever felt in her life. Humiliated, crushed, exposed to the entire world as nothing more than an object of ridicule. But deep inside, beneath the pain and shame, something was stirring. A spark, a whisper in her soul. She didn't yet understand it, but it was there, waiting. The night had reached its cruelest point. And while everyone laughed, Anna's silent tears became the seed of something none of them could have imagined. The chant slowly faded, replaced once again by the music of the orchestra, as if nothing had happened. Guests returned to their laughter and drinks, but Anna stood frozen, her small figure trembling near the corner of the hall. Her cheeks glistened where the tears had escaped, though she tried to wipe them quickly with the back of her hand. She didn't want to give her tormentors the satisfaction of seeing her cry. She slipped quietly toward the side of the ballroom, pressing herself against the wall, trying to make herself invisible. The laughter still echoed in her mind, sharper than the violins, louder than the applause for the dancers who now spun freely on the floor. Each giggle, each whisper replayed like an arrow lodged in her chest. She found an empty chair near the servants' corridor and sat down, folding her hands in her lap. Her body shook with silent sobs, but she made no sound. A single tear rolled down her cheek and fell onto the faded fabric of her dress. To anyone else, it was just a tear. To Anna, it was the weight of humiliation, of feeling small and unwanted in a world that had already decided she didn't belong. From the kitchen, Maria finally managed to slip away for a moment. She saw her daughter alone, head bowed, shoulders trembling. Her heart broke at the sight. She hurried over, kneeling in front of Anna, her hands gently cupping the girl's face. "My little one," Maria whispered, her voice trembling. "Don't let them steal your light. You are worth more than all of this. More than these chandeliers, more than their dresses, more than their laughter." Anna shook her head, her voice cracking. "Mama, they hate me, they don't want me here, I'm nothing to them." Maria's eyes filled with tears, but her voice grew firm. "Listen to me, Anna. You are not nothing. You are my daughter and you are God's child. And that makes you greater than all of this. Their words are poison, but poison only hurts if you drink it. Don't drink it, my love. Keep your heart pure." Anna looked into her mother's eyes. There was no gold, no diamonds, no luxury there. Only truth, only love. And for a moment the pain lessened. Maria pulled her daughter into a tight embrace. She could feel Anna's tears soaking her shoulder, but she held her even closer, whispering softly in her ear, "God never abandons the innocent. One day they will see your worth. One day your light will shine before everyone." Anna clung to her mother as though holding on to life itself. Her small hands gripped the fabric of Maria's uniform, her silent sobs echoing the prayer of her mother's heart. At that moment, no one else noticed them. To the wealthy guests, they were invisible, just the maid and her daughter, hidden in the corner. But heaven noticed. And though Anna didn't yet realize it, that tear falling silently on her faded dress was not a sign of weakness, but the beginning of her strength. The orchestra played louder, couples laughed, the night sparkled with arrogance and pride. But in that quiet corner, between a mother and her child, something stronger than humiliation was born. Resilience. Anna wiped her face with trembling hands, taking a deep breath. She still felt small, still felt wounded, but inside her heart the faintest whisper grew louder. "You are not defeated." The night pressed on, laughter echoing across the ballroom, but Anna remained near the shadows, her small hands still gripping the folds of her faded dress. She had calmed a little after her mother's embrace, but the sting of humiliation clung to her like a stain that wouldn't wash away. Every so often she caught another glance, another smirk, another whisper from across the hall. They had not forgotten her. They were only waiting for the next chance. That chance came sooner than she expected. As the orchestra finished a piece, the dance floor cleared for a moment. Beatrice and her group of friends gathered near the stage, sipping on sparkling drinks. Their laughter carried easily, sharp and mocking. Beatrice's eyes landed on Anna again, and a cruel smile curved on her lips. "Still here?" she said loudly, drawing attention. "I thought the little Maid's girl would have run away by now." Her friends giggled, circling closer to Anna like predators surrounding prey. One boy, tall and arrogant, stepped forward. "Maybe she's waiting to prove herself," he sneered. "What do you think, Beatrice? Should we give her a chance?" Anna stepped back, shaking her head. "No. Please. I don't." But the circle tightened. Another girl leaned in, her voice dripping with mockery. "You said earlier she doesn't belong here, Beatrice. Maybe she should show us why. Let's see if she can even dance. Or is she only good at cleaning floors like her mother?" The laughter erupted again, sharper this time, fueled by cruelty. Anna's chest tightened. Her breath came fast and shallow. She glanced desperately toward the kitchen, searching for her mother, but Maria was across the room, carrying a heavy tray, her eyes wide with helplessness. The tall boy clapped his hands suddenly, drawing the attention of nearby guests. "Everyone, let's have some fun," he announced. "We want to see if the maid's daughter has any talent. Let her dance for us." The idea spread through the crowd like wildfire. Adults half drunk on champagne chuckled and nodded. Some clapped their hands rhythmically. Others whispered, "Yes, let's see. It'll be entertaining." Anna shook her head violently, tears forming in her eyes. "No, I don't want to," she cried softly. But Beatrice, basking in the cruel attention, stepped closer, towering over her. She bent down slightly so only Anna and her friends could hear her words, though her smile remained for the crowd. "Don't you understand? People like you were not made to shine. You were made to serve. And tonight you'll prove it. Dance for us, or walk out in shame." Anna froze. Her legs trembled, her lips quivered. She wanted to scream, to run, but she was trapped. The circle around her closed tighter, and the chanting began again, crueler, harsher this time. "Dance! Dance! Dance!" The sound filled the hall, drowning out the music of the orchestra. Adults laughed as if it were part of the entertainment, while children pointed and clapped. The golden walls of the mansion seemed to echo with cruelty. Anna's tears spilled freely now, rolling down her cheeks. She lifted her eyes for just a moment, as if searching the heavens. In her heart she whispered words no one could hear. "God, please help me. Please don't leave me." Maria, her heart breaking, tried to push forward, but another servant grabbed her arm. "Don't," he whispered. "They'll fire you. They'll throw you out." Maria's lips trembled, but she whispered a prayer through clenched teeth. "Lord, give her courage. Give her strength. Don't let them destroy her." The music stopped completely. All eyes were on Anna. The circle opened just enough to leave her alone in the center of the dance floor, exposed, trembling, humiliated. The chandeliers above seemed to burn brighter, as if even the lights wanted to watch her suffer. And there, in the middle of that cruel stage, the seed of her destiny was planted. For though Anna felt smaller than she had ever felt, a spark deep inside her flickered, a spark that would not be extinguished. The challenge had been thrown, and soon the entire hall would witness a miracle they would never forget. The ballroom was silent now, all eyes fixed on Anna as she stood in the center of the polished marble floor. The chandeliers above gleamed like 1,000 eyes staring down at her, judging her, mocking her. Her heart pounded so loudly she thought everyone could hear it. Her hands trembled at her sides, and her legs felt weak, as though they would give way beneath her. The chant still rang in her ears. "Dance, dance, dance," even though the crowd had fallen quiet, waiting for her to either collapse in shame or make a fool of herself. Anna wanted to run. She wanted to cry. She wanted to vanish from the room altogether. But when she glanced toward the kitchen door, she saw her mother. Maria stood there, her hands pressed together tightly, her lips moving in silent prayer. Tears filled her eyes, but her face was steady, strong, full of faith. And in that moment, Anna felt something stir inside her. It was faint at first, like a whisper carried on the wind, but it grew stronger, warmer, as if a fire had been lit in the deepest part of her soul. She closed her eyes. For a moment, the cruel faces around her disappeared. The laughter faded. The chandeliers dimmed. All she could feel was her own heartbeat. And a voice, gentle and steady, rising within her. "You are not nothing. You are my child. I gave you a gift. Don't hide it. Let it shine." Anna drew in a trembling breath. She opened her eyes, and though tears still glistened on her cheeks, her expression had changed. The fear was still there, yes, but it was no longer alone. Courage had joined it, standing beside it like a friend she had forgotten she had. Beatrice noticed the change and narrowed her eyes, stepping closer. "Well?" she demanded, her voice sharp, eager to see Anna crumble. "Are you going to stand there like a statue, or are you going to show us how pathetic you are?" Anna lifted her chin. For the first time that night, she didn't look at Beatrice's golden gown, or the jewels, or the mocking faces around her. She looked past them all, to something higher, something greater. Her voice was soft but steady. "If you want me to dance, then I will dance." A ripple moved through the crowd. Some laughed, expecting a disaster. Others leaned forward with curiosity. The orchestra musicians, unsure, exchanged glances. One of them, an older violinist with kind eyes, gently lifted his bow. He seemed to sense something unusual in the air. Anna took one slow step forward, placing herself at the very center of the hall. She closed her eyes again, and for a moment it was as if the world held its breath. Maria whispered under her breath, tears spilling freely now. "Lord, be with her. Let her shine. Let them see her as you see her." And as Anna exhaled, the flame inside her grew stronger. It was no longer just courage. It was determination. It was the decision to no longer be silent, no longer be invisible, no longer accept the contempt of those who believed themselves above her. This was the moment everything would change. The ballroom was silent. A silence so heavy it seemed to press down on every guest, every servant, even the chandeliers above. All eyes were on Anna, the maid's daughter, standing barefoot now at the center of the marble floor. Her small, trembling hands brushed against her dress as she took a slow breath. The musicians exchanged glances, uncertain. Should they play? Should they wait? Finally, the elderly violinist, sensing something no one else could, lifted his bow and drew the first long, haunting note. The sound floated through the hall like a fragile thread, wrapping itself around Anna. Her heart raced. Her knees shook. For a brief moment she thought she would faint. The cruel laughter she had endured all night echoed in her mind. She doesn't belong. She's nothing. Just the maid's daughter. The words swirled like ghosts around her. But then she remembered her mother's voice, firm and steady. "You are my daughter, and you are God's child. That makes you greater than all of this." And so, with eyes still glistening with tears, Anna took her first step. It was small, hesitant, like a bird testing its wings. The crowd leaned in, some smirking, others already preparing to laugh. But then came the second step, smoother, more certain. Her arms rose, not clumsily, but gracefully, as though she had rehearsed her whole life in secret. Gasps rippled through the hall. Beatrice's smile faltered. The violinist, sensing the shift, played louder, his melody swelling with emotion. The pianist joined him, and soon the orchestra was alive again, following Anna's movement as though she were leading them. Her feet began to glide across the floor, her body moving with a natural rhythm that no teacher had ever given her. Each turn, each spin, each delicate extension of her arms carried something more than skill. It carried truth. Pain transformed into beauty, humiliation into strength. The guests who had laughed only moments ago now stared in stunned silence. Their mocking eyes widened, their cruel grins slowly fading. The room that had once been filled with scorn now held only awe. Anna spun, her dress flowing like waves around her, her hair coming loose in strands that shimmered under the golden lights. She was no longer the poor servant's daughter standing in the wrong place. She was something else entirely. Radiant, powerful, untouchable. Maria pressed her hands to her mouth, tears streaming freely as she whispered, "Thank you, Lord. Thank you for showing them who she truly is." Anna, though trembling inside, felt the flame of courage grow into fire. With each step, she became bolder, stronger. She raised her head high, meeting the eyes of her tormentors. For the first time, they couldn't look down on her. They could only look up. By the time the music swelled to its peak, the ballroom was no longer a stage of mockery. It was her stage, her moment. And with one final breathtaking turn, Anna stopped at the very center, chest rising and falling, her eyes shining not with tears of pain anymore, but with light. The silence that followed was different now, not cruel, not mocking, but reverent, the kind of silence that comes when people witness something they cannot explain. For a moment, time itself seemed to stand still. Anna remained at the center of the ballroom, her chest rising and falling as she caught her breath. The silence was almost unbearable, heavy, pressing. Then, with a soft nod to the orchestra, the violinist lifted his bow again, and music poured into the hall, not cruel, not mocking, but soaring, filled with power and grace. Anna moved again. This time there was no hesitation. Her arms stretched wide, her feet glided across the marble floor as if it belonged to her. She spun, leapt and turned, each movement sharper, stronger, more beautiful than the last. Her tears were still on her cheeks, but now they glittered in the light like diamonds forged from pain. The guests could hardly believe what they were seeing. Some gasped openly, hands covering their mouths. Others leaned forward in their chairs, their eyes wide, as if afraid to blink and miss a single step. The same mouths that had mocked her were now silent, unable to deny the brilliance unfolding before them. Maria stood frozen near the doorway, tears flowing freely down her face. Her hands clutched at her chest, as if holding her heart in place. She whispered again and again, "Thank you, Lord. Thank you. Don't let her fall. Let her shine." The music swelled, and Anna leapt gracefully, her body arching in perfect rhythm with the crescendo. She twirled, her dress fanning out like a burst of light, and for a moment it seemed as if the chandeliers above dimmed, just so her glow could outshine them. It was not just a dance. It was a revelation. Every insult, every smirk, every cruel laugh had been poured into her movements and transformed into beauty. She was no longer just the maid's daughter. She was art. She was strength. She was fire. Beatrice, standing stiff at the edge of the dance floor, felt her face grow hot with anger and disbelief. She clenched her fists, but she couldn't deny it. Anna had stolen her night. The golden gown, the diamonds, the grandeur of the party. None of it could compete with the pure light radiating from the girl she had tried to crush. The music reached its peak. The violins cried, the piano thundered, the drums rolled. Anna spun one final time, her body moving with such precision and passion that it felt almost divine. She stopped suddenly at the center, striking her final pose, head held high, arms extended, eyes shining toward the heavens. The hall erupted into silence again, a silence so deep it felt holy. And then, the applause began. It started with a single pair of hands clapping. The elderly violinist, tears glistening in his eyes. Then another joined, and another, until the entire ballroom shook with applause, louder and louder, filling the golden walls with a thunder greater than any mockery had ever been. Guests rose to their feet. Some shouted, some whistled, some cried. The same people who had humiliated her now applauded her brilliance, their faces red with shame, their eyes wide with awe. Maria fell to her knees where she stood, crying with joy, whispering, "Glory to God! Glory to God. Anna stood tall in the center of it all, no longer trembling, no longer afraid. In that moment she was not just Anna. She was a star, one that no contempt, no arrogance, no cruelty could ever dim. The ballroom still echoed with thunderous applause. The once mocking crowd was now on its feet, their claps rolling like waves, breaking against the golden walls of the mansion. It was a storm of recognition, a sound Anna had never imagined would belong to her. She stood in the center of it all, her chest heaving, her eyes glistening, her body glowing with the sweat of effort and the fire of victory. Yet not all faces carried joy. Beatrice stood frozen, her hands clenched so tightly that her nails dug into her palms. Her golden gown, once the symbol of her pride, now felt heavy, like chains around her body. She had wanted to humiliate Anna, to make her small, invisible. Instead, Anna had stolen the night, and all the eyes that once adored Beatrice now shone with admiration for the girl she despised. "Stop clapping," Beatrice shouted suddenly, her voice sharp, cutting through the applause. The hall quieted, but not completely. The clapping lingered like an echo that refused to die. "She's nothing. She's just the maid's daughter. This is my party." But her words no longer carried the same power. Instead of laughter, she was met with silence. Guests shifted uncomfortably, exchanging glances. Some lowered their heads, ashamed. Others looked at Beatrice with disapproval. One woman murmured to her husband, "How cruel she was. How blind we were." A man near the stage shook his head, whispering, "We mocked her, and yet she shines brighter than all of us." Even Beatrice's friends, the same who had laughed the loudest, now stood uneasy. One boy avoided her gaze, muttering, "She's incredible. I didn't know." Another girl clutched her bracelet nervously, her face flushed with shame. Anna, still standing tall, looked at them, not with hatred, not with anger, but with a calm dignity far beyond her years. She didn't need to speak. Her silence was louder than any insult, her grace more powerful than any cruelty. Maria stepped forward, unable to hold back her tears. She crossed the floor slowly, her hands trembling as she reached for her daughter. When she finally embraced Anna, the crowd erupted again in applause, not just for the girl, but for the bond between mother and child, for the love that had carried Anna through the fire. Beatrice tried once more, her voice breaking now. "She doesn't belong here. She never will." But no one listened. A man from the crowd, his voice stern, finally spoke aloud. "You're wrong, Beatrice. Tonight she belongs here more than any of us." Gasps followed his words, and the shame spread like a wave. Those who had mocked, those who had whispered, those who had laughed, all now found it impossible to meet Anna's eyes. They bowed their heads, their arrogance broken. The chandeliers still sparkled, the orchestra still played softly, but the true light in that room was no longer the wealth or the luxury. It was Anna, the girl they had tried to humiliate, now standing as the living proof that dignity cannot be crushed. The ballroom was transformed. The same hall that had once echoed with cruel laughter now pulsed with admiration and awe. The chandeliers glistened above, but their glow seemed dim compared to the light radiating from Anna, standing tall at the center of the floor, her mother by her side. The applause slowly faded, replaced by murmurs of recognition. Guests leaned toward each other, whispering, "She's extraordinary. What talent. We misjudged her." The poison of mockery had turned into the bitterness of shame, and in its place grew respect. The orchestra, led by the elderly violinist with tears in his eyes, played a soft, reverent melody. It was no longer entertainment. It was tribute. Anna looked around, her chest still rising and falling with emotion. Her gaze stopped on Beatrice, who stood trembling, her face flushed with anger and humiliation. For a moment their eyes met. Beatrice expected revenge, a cruel word, a triumphant smile. But Anna only looked at her with quiet dignity. No hatred, no mockery, only strength. That silence cut deeper than any insult. Beatrice lowered her eyes, defeated. Maria kissed her daughter's forehead, her voice breaking with joy. "You see, my love. I told you. God does not abandon the innocent. Tonight you showed them who you truly are. Tears welled in Anna's eyes again, but they were different now. Not tears of humiliation, but tears of victory. She whispered back, "Mama, I felt him with me. When I danced, it wasn't me alone. It was like something greater carried me." Maria nodded, her own tears shining. "It was the hand of God, Anna. He lifted you up in front of those who tried to destroy you. That is how he works." The guests, one by one, began to approach. Some offered apologies. Others simply bowed their heads. A wealthy woman, her jewels glittering, placed a hand on Anna's shoulder and said softly, "Forgive us, child. We were blind." The elderly violinist stepped forward, his voice trembling. "In all my years, I have never seen such a performance. You are a star, young lady. Never forget that." Anna blushed, lowering her eyes, but her mother lifted her chin gently. "Hold your head high, daughter. Stars don't hide their light." The crowd erupted again in applause, this time not out of surprise, but out of reverence, a recognition that could no longer be denied. And in that moment, Anna realized something profound. She didn't need their acceptance to know her worth. She didn't need their praise to shine. Her light had always been inside her. Tonight it had simply been revealed. Maria whispered one final time, holding her daughter close. "The world tried to humiliate you, Anna, but God exalted you. Remember this always. The contempt of men is nothing before the glory of God." As the orchestra swelled once more, Anna stood beneath the golden chandeliers, no longer the maid's daughter in a faded dress, but the girl who had turned humiliation into triumph. She was proof that dignity cannot be crushed, that light cannot be hidden, and that justice, though delayed, always arrives. The night ended not with Beatrice's golden gown or the riches of the mansion, but with the unforgettable image of a humble girl who had danced like a star, and reminded everyone present that the light of the just will always prevail. Have you ever felt humiliated like Anna? Tell your story in the comments. You are not alone. Do you believe justice always comes, even if late? Share your faith below. And remember, never lose hope. The world may laugh at you, but God never abandons the just. The good always wins in the end.